Saraswati Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravadi Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dishetarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam, dear devotees. Thank you so much for joining, and let us continue reading of the nectarian pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samast Bhakta ki jai. Hare Krishna. So, every aspect of Chaitanya Charitamrita is very, very beautiful. And the section that we are reading now, chapter 15, we'll be starting with verse 120 today. And these verses are very, very beautiful because they're talking about the interactions between the Lord and his devotees. So we see how personal our Lord actually is. You know, when he's meeting these various devotees who are now returning to Bengal, he's having personal interaction with everyone. Whenever he's meeting someone, he first glorifies that devotee. Then he mentions some intimate pastime or some intimate incident about that devotee, then he is giving them instructions, and instructions are also very, very personal. So that just enhances the beauty of this section. And the previous shlokas that were read in the past few days, they are really glorifying the holy name, right? Like yesterday also, so beautifully explained by Mataji. And we are reading about how powerful, how strong Lord Krishna's names are. And that goes on for several shlokas because it's a very, very important topic. It's a very important understanding for everyone. In this age of Kali, it is recommended in our scriptures that Harinam Sankirtan, the glorification of the names of the Lord, chanting of the names of the Lord is the means for self-realization. So that should not be considered just as a mere exaggeration that, okay, yeah, the holy name is powerful, but it cannot be so powerful. We should not have this kind of a thought in our minds. When it is mentioned by the Lord himself, when it is mentioned by our acharyas, when it is mentioned by Srila Prabhupada, that the holy name is non-different than Lord Krishna himself, then we have to have firm faith in this statement. And when we chant, we should chant with that conviction that the holy name and Lord Krishna are non-different. So the glories of the holy name should never be underestimated. So when it is mentioned in the shlokas that when one chants the names of Lord Krishna, then one dissolves material entanglements. We are all entangled, right, by various things, by various kind of materialistic things that have entrapped us, that have kept us tied down. But one dissolves all material entanglement when we chant the Lord's powerful names, and the attraction towards Lord Krishna increases. So that is actually something very, very important for all of us to do, because as we feel more and more attracted to Lord Krishna, that means that we'll feel less and less attracted to materialistic things. So our focus should not so much be on letting go of materialistic things as it should be on increasing our attachment to Lord Krishna. Because as we are attaching ourselves to Lord Krishna, as that attachment, as that relationship is growing stronger, our entanglement in materialistic things is automatically loosening. So that is automatically happening. And the power of the holy name, as it is being glorified in these verses, it is mentioned that it is the annihilator of all sinful reactions, and it is identical with Krishna. So Krishna, who is the master, supreme lord of everything, his name is non-different than him. And Lord Chaitanya says that one who chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra even once is to be considered a Vaishnav, and we should offer them mental respects. That is how powerful the Lord's name is. But the important thing is, as explained by Acharyas, is that we should make an attempt, we should try to chant offenselessly. The problem why the holy name is not giving the required result in some cases is because we chant with offenses. So that's why it's followed in all our temples, and we should all try to follow this too. That when we in the morning before we do our chanting, we should try to revise the offenses against the holy name. So in all the temples, this is followed, and this is so very important because it is we need to be conscious of what these offenses are, so that in our day-to-day life, in our day-to-day activities, we are very careful that when we are conducting our day also, we should have that kind of mentality which takes us away from offenses. So it's not that when we are just sitting to chant, we have to think of the offenses only then. No, these offenses should be in our minds always. Because see, things like not having complete faith in chanting or considering the holy name to be one of the auspicious ritualistic activities. Now, this is something which can be imbibed in us, right? So we have to condition our mind in such a way, or train our mind in such a way that we remove the root cause of these offenses from our mind, so that we are able to chant offenselessly. Blaspheming devotees or blaspheming Vedic literature, All these things, we have to be very conscious that we remove all these things from our mind, from our habit, from our speaking, so that when we sit to chant the names of Lord Krishna, then we are able to chant offenselessly. And we should have firm faith that when we call out the holy name, then Lord Krishna is actually listening. He is listening to us. So this is our personal time with Lord Krishna. That is why it is very, very special. And while chanting, we should think that I am offering this to the Lord. All other things are secondary. This is why attentive chanting is so very important. If we keep everything aside, that is when our chanting becomes very, very effective. Then came the beautiful conversation between Mukunda Das and Lord Chaitanya, and where Lord Chaitanya was asking him that, are you Raghunandan's father or Raghunandan is your father? Because of the beautiful pastime where Raghunandan actually offers something and the deity accepts it. So he says, that in his mind, Mukunda Das says that in his mind, actually Raghunandan is his father, because a Vaishnav, even though in the body of a child, is still a Vaishnav. That is how glorious the position of a Vaishnav is. Then in verse number 118, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy to speak about the glories of his devotees. We see how the Lord really enjoys it so much that his devotees are glorified. And that is why when we sing prayers that are written by acharyas, they are very, very powerful, because one, we are glorifying the Lord, and secondly, when we are singing prayers that are written by great devotees, then we are reminding the Lord of that devotee, and that really pleases the Lord. So the Lord is so personal and so loving towards everyone. And then in 119 verse, that was the verse last discussed, Lord glorifies Mukunda Das's bhakti. Okay, so that is where we stop. So we'll continue on 120 today. I'll just share the screen and then we'll continue. Yes, so we are on 15th chapter, 119. This is yesterday's verse, and let's move to today's verse. Yes, so Shobha Mataji, you want to start reading the shloka? Shobha Mataji, you want to read?
Shall I read, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, some technical problem. Let Mataji read next time.
Okay, Mataji, you can read the translation and purport, and Sindhu Mataji can read the shloka.
Okay, pronounce Mataji. 15.120. Bahya Raja Vaidya Inho Kare Raja Seva Antare Krishna Prema Inhara Jani Bheka Hikkeba. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mukunda Dasa externally appears to be a royal physician engaged in governmental service, but internally has a deep love for Krishna. Who can understand his love? Hare Krishna. Purport, shall I read?
Shobha Mataji can read.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you,
Dandava Pranam Mataji. Perfect A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Unless Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discloses the fact, no one can understand who is actually a great devotee of Lord engaged in his service. It is therefore said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 23.39, Thanara Vakya Kriya Mudra Vijnana Na Bujyaya. Even the most perfect and the learned scholar cannot understand a Vaishnava's activities. A Vaishnava may be engaged in governmental service or in any professional business, so that externally one cannot understand his position. Internally, however, he may be a Nityasiddha Vaishnava, that is, an externally liberated Vaishnava. Externally, Mukundadasa was a royal physician, but internally he was the most liberated Paramahamsa devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew this very well, but ordinarily men could not understand it. Ordinary men could not understand it. For the activities and plans of a Vaishnava cannot be understood by ordinary men. However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his representative understand everything about a devotee, even though the devotee may externally pretend to be an ordinary householder and professional businessman. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Mataji, Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hari Bol. So here the Lord is saying that how Mukunda Das, externally he was the royal physician and he was engaged in the government service, but internally in his heart he had deep love for Lord Krishna. And Prabhupada is explaining, quoting this shloka from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, where it is mentioned that Tanra Vakya Kriya Mudra Vignya Na Bhujayam. That means that even the most perfect and learned scholar cannot understand a Vaishnava's activities. So a Vaishnava should never be judged by the external aspects, because the devotion towards Lord Krishna is something very, very personal. So it should not be, we should not judge anyone depending upon the external appearance or their occupation or their ashram. So it's not that only devotees who are living in temples can be pure devotees. Even devotees who are not living in the temple, who may be grihastas, who may be having a business or an occupation, or they may be looking after the family, they can be very, very advanced. And there are so many examples in this connection. Externally, they may have a job, they may have family, but their devotion can still be very, very deep. They may have this complete consciousness that whatever they are doing as a service to Lord Krishna. And then there's so many examples where devotees are very successful in their professional life also, but they are also very, very deeply connected to the temples, and they're very dedicated in their sadhana and in their services. And they can also be very learned in Shastra. They can, even render a lot of menial service because their heart is given to Krishna. They may be multimillionaires also, but when the devotion to Lord Krishna is so deep, then they don't have any inhibitions in coming to the temple and even washing plates or maintaining the shoe stand. They'll do all these kind of menial sevas also because they have given their heart to Lord Krishna. So from the external aspects, we can never judge a Vaishnava, like what kind of a body they have or what kind of complexion they have, what caste do they belong to, or which part of the world they are from. These aspects should never be considered when you're talking about Vaishnava. So Prabhupada is mentioning that ordinary men cannot understand it, but the Lord and his representative can understand everything about a devotee, even though the devotee may externally pretend to be an ordinary householder and professional businessman. So a position of a Vaishnava is so, so high, and that should never be underestimated or never be judged by externals. Okay. Now let's go to verse 121. Would someone like to read? Yes, Lalita Mataji. And then Shri Priya Mataji. Lalita Mataji, you can read 121, and Shri Priya Mataji, you can read 122.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Ekadinam lecha rajara. Sorry. Ekadinam lecha rajara uchat tungite chikitsara bhata kahe tara agrete. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One day Mukunda Dasa, the royal physician, was seated with the Muslim king on a high platform and was telling the king about the medical treatment. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So he was the royal physician. So in this verse, it is mentioned that once he was seated with the king and they were talking about the medical treatment. Let's go to 122.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hena kale eka mayura puchera adani raja shiro paridare eka sevaka ani. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. While the king and Mukunda Dasa was conversing, a servant brought a fan made of peacock feathers to shade the king's head from the sun. Consequently, he held the fan above the king's head. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So then what happens is that a servant brings a fan that is made of peacock feathers because he wanted to shade the king's head from the sun. So can we imagine what would have happened next? A great devotee is seeing peacock feathers. So what would have happened? We'll see in this verse. Shobha Mataji, you want to read?
Sloka, I'll read Mataji. CC Madhya Lila 15:123. Shri Kapichadhe ki mukunda prema avishta haila ati ucha thungi kalte bhumi pe padila. Translation Dayasi Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, by seeing the peacock feathered fan, Mukunda Dasa became absorbed in ecstatic love of Goddess and fell from the high platform onto the ground. Hare Krishna,
Dandavat. Thank you, Mataji. So, seeing anything that belongs to the Lord, the devotees are reminded of the Lord. So, even small things like, say, seeing a flute or the peacock feather, or when that example is given that when the child is, say, in school and the mother sees a ball, then the mother is immediately reminded that, oh, this ball belongs to my child, and the mother is reminded of the child because the love is so intense. So for pure devotees of Krishna, they are so deeply absorbed in the Lord that everything connected with the Lord reminds them of the Lord. So why is Mukunda Das feeling like this? Because he remembered Lord Krishna and he's feeling that ecstasy. And because of that ecstasy, he fell down from the high platform and he fell down onto the ground. Bhuvna Devi Mataji, you want to read the next shloka?
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Rajara Jnana Raja Vaidhira Haila Manara Apane Namiye Tabe Kairaila Chaitanya. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The king, fearing that the royal physician had been killed, personally descended and brought him to the consciousness. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So the king feels concerned because he fell from that high platform. So he's thinking that what if he's dead? He's concerned like that. So he goes and tries to find out what happened to Mukunda Das. So now let's go to 125. Yes, Gayatri Mataji, kindly read.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
125, right?
Yes, Mataji.
Raja bale vyata tumi paile kona tayi mukunda kahe ati bada vyata pai nai. Translation by His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When the king asked Mukunda, where is it paining you? Mukunda replied, I am not very much pained. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So like it happens, right? If someone falls down and then others come and ask and they're like, no, I'm fine. Nothing happened. Something like that. Mukunda Das is saying here that nothing happened because the king was concerned. So he's saying that no, nothing happened. Yes, A.M. Radhika Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Mataji is Mukunda Datta only, no?
Yes, Mataji. Mukunda.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Raja kahe Mukunda tumi padilaki lagi Mukunda kahi Raja mora vyadi ache mrigi. Hare Krishna. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The king then inquired, Mukunda, why did you fall down? Mukunda replied, my dear king, I have this disease called epilepsy. Haribol. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So epilepsy means, when they get fits. So that's what Mukunda Das is saying, that I have this disease because of which it happened. So he's not telling the exact reason that I was in ecstasy. He's not making that clear to the king. Okay. Now let's go to verse 127. Would someone like to read?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, please read.
15.127. Mahavidagta Raja se sab jane Mukundere haila tanra mahasiddha jnane. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Being extraordinarily intelligent, the king could understand the whole affair. In his estimation, Mukunda was a most uncommon, exalted, liberated personality. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the king was very intelligent, and he could understand that what was Mukunda's position. He was a very exalted personality, and so he could actually understand what had happened. So in this section where we're reading about Mukunda feeling that ecstasy and falling down, and but still not disclosing it to the king what the actual reason was. This is teaching us several lessons, and these lessons are firstly that Mukunda was a very exalted, pure devotee of the Lord, and in his heart, ecstatic devotional eruptions would happen. But if he was observing anything related to Krishna, he would genuinely feel that ecstasy in his heart. So that is Mukunda's great position. And that is why we also should try to surround ourselves with pictures or small items which will remind us of Krishna, because actually our effort should be to remember Krishna all the time and never forget Krishna. So we should make the environment around ourselves conducive to that, so that the remembrance of the Lord comes very easily. See, when we go to temples also, yes, the main altar is there, but even around the temple, we see so many beautiful paintings of Lord Krishna, Radharani, or Lord Chaitanya, and their various pastimes, right? So that whenever we're looking here and there also, we are always reminded of Krishna. So whether it is our home or it is our workplace or it is our table, we should try to have some articles, some items, some photographs or pictures which will remind us of Lord Krishna. Okay, so that's the first lesson about Mukunda's very exalted position, because he was feeling this deep ecstasy. Then the other lesson is that even though he was so advanced, he did not reveal it to the king, because pure devotees never claim that they are very advanced, very exalted. So there any signs of ecstasy like shivering of the body or tears coming in the eyes, pure devotees never make a show of it. They always try to conceal it. And then the next lesson is that pure devotion is a very exalted state, and one should never artificially make a show of it. So it's not that, we make a show that, oh, I'm feeling so much ecstasy in Kirtan, and then some people start crying and they start dancing in a very different, strange kind of a manner to show that ecstasy. So that if the real ecstasy is never actually revealed to the common people, and one should never artificially make a show of it. So we should never imitate the great souls, because even if one is feeling these ecstasies, they never declare it to the world. Like Srila Prabhupada, right? He's such an exalted devotee, he's an eternal associate of Lord Krishna, but he never said that, oh, I am feeling this kind of ecstasy. He never made a show of anything like that. Devotees maintain a very humble position, and that is what we are learning from Mukunda Das here. Okay. Now let's read 128 and 129. Yes. Gayatri Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji. Mataji, can you please scroll?
Yes, Mataji. Is that okay, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
रघुनंदन सेवा करे कृष्णेर मंदिरे द्वारे पुष्करिणी तारा गतेर उपरे कदंबेर एक वृक्षे फूटे बार मासे नित्य दुई फूल हया कृष्ण अवतम से. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Raghunandana is constantly engaged in serving Lord Krishna in the temple. Beside the entrance of the temple is a lake, and on its banks is a kadamba tree which daily delivers 2 flowers to be used for Krishna's service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So the Lord is giving so many details. He knows all these details, where is what kind of worship and where is the lake, and on the banks of the lake there is a kadamba tree, and exactly how many flowers come out of the kadamba tree. That also the Lord is mentioning, because even the number of flowers, because Mahaprabhu is the all-knowing super soul, right? He's seated in everyone's heart. So he's seated in the heart of Raghunandan also, and that is why he knows everything. And that is what he's mentioning here. Okay. Now let's read 130. Shobha Mataji, you want to read?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Mataji, text 130. 130, right?
Yes, Mataji.
मुकुंदेरे काहे पुनः मधुर वचना हमारा कार्य धर्मे दाना उपर्जना. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again spoke to Mukunda with sweet words. Your duty is to earn both material and spiritual wealth. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So, Lord Chaitanya is speaking to Mukunda, and he's saying that what is his duty. Now, in these coming 3 shlokas, we'll see that how the Lord is mentioning the duty for Mukunda Das, then for Raghunandan Thakur, and for Mukunda Das's brother Narahari. So, for Mukunda Das, Mahaprabhu is saying that it is your duty to earn both material and spiritual wealth. This is his instruction for Mukunda Das. Now let's read verse 131. Shameshwari Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Raghunandare karya Krishna sevana Krishna seva vina ihara anya nahi mana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Furthermore, it is the duty of Raghunandan to always engage in Lord Krishna's service. He has no other intention but the service of the Lord Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So for Raghunandan Thakur, because he already had this wonderful pastime with the deity of the Lord, right? So Lord Chaitanya is saying that for Raghunandan, his work is deity service. He should always engage in Lord Krishna's service. And service to Lord Krishna is his intention. He has no other intention but the service of Lord Krishna. So deity worship was mentioned for Raghunandan Thakur. Okay. Now let's read verse 132. Would someone like to read?
Mataji, can I read?
Yes, please, Mataji. Read.
Okay. Narahari Rahu Amara Bhakta Gana Sane Iti na Karya Sada Karahati na Jane. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then ordered Narahari, I wish you to remain here with my devotees. In this way, the 3 of you should always execute these 3 duties for the service of the Lord. Purport also, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please read.
Okay, purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set forth 3 duties for 3 different people. Mukunda was to earn money and follow the religious principles, whereas Narahari was to remain with the Lord's devotees, and Raghunandana was to engage in the Lord's service in the temple. Thus, one person worships in the temple, another earns money honestly by executing his professional duty, and yet another preaches Krishna consciousness with the devotees. Apparently, these 3 types of service appear separate, but actually they are not. When Krishna or Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the center, everyone can engage in different activities for the service of the Lord. That is the verdict of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So the Lord is mentioning for Narahari that for him, he has to stay with the devotees. So traveling with the devotees, kind of like a renounced life that is recommended for Narahari. And so the different duties for each of them, for Mukunda Das, it was earning material and spiritual wealth. For Raghunandan Thakur, it was serving the deities. And for Narahari, to remain with the Lord's devotees, traveling with them. So the lesson to be learned here is that although devotees may be engaged in their lives in different ways, in different kind of services, eventually we have to look for only one thing, that is the devotion, their seva bhav, their chanting, their faith, their sadhana with bhavna, that is actually the main thing. Because there are so many different kind of services, and when we see devotees also, they are engaged in different kinds of activities, but it's the devotion that actually matters. And Mahaprabhu here is giving them services according to their nature. So different services for different devotees. Okay. So now let's go to verse 133. Yeah, Bhuvana Devi Mataji, kindly read.
Yes, Mataji. Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. Sarvabhauma Vidya Vachaspati Duhi Bai Duhi Jane Kripa Kari Kahe Na Goshani. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Out of his causeless mercy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the following directions to the brothers Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Vidya Vachaspati. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So now the interaction with Mukunda Das and his brother and Raghunandana is over. Now Mahaprabhu is going to give directions to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Vidya Vachaspati, the brothers. Okay. So let's go to the next verse 134. Yeah, Shameshwari Mataji, want to read?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
दारु जल रूपे कृष्ण प्रकट संप्रप्ति दर्शन स्नाने करे जीवेर मुक्ति. Translation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, in this age of Kali, Krishna is manifested in two forms, wood and water. Thus, by enabling the conditioned souls to see the wood and bathe in the water, he helps them become liberated. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So the Lord is mentioning that in the age of Kali, Lord Krishna appears in two forms, that is, as wood he appears and also as water. And he enables the conditioned souls to see the wood and bathe in the water. In this way, he helps them become liberated. So we can understand, right? In wood, which form is it? Which form of the Lord? I'm sure all of you know.
Lord Jagannath.
Yes, Lord Jagannath. And as water?
Shamkund.
Matsya.
Which water body does the Lord come as? Very famous. Everyone knows, actually, especially in Bharatvash, everybody knows. Go take a bath.
Yamuna River.
Ganga.
Ganga, yes, Mataji. So it's river Ganga. Yeah. So that is mentioned in this next shloka. So Shri Priya Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Daru Brahma Rupe Shaksha Shri Purushottama Bhagirati Hana Saksha Jala Brahma Sama. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Jagannatha is the Supreme Lord himself in the form of wood, and the river Ganges is the Supreme Lord himself in the form of water. Do you read Prabhupada, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please read.
Yeah. 1 minute. Prabhupada by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Vedas enjoin Sarvam Kalva Idam Brahma. Everything is the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Brahman or Parabrahman. Parasya Brahma Shakti Tatedam Akhilam Jagat. Everything is a manifestation of the energy of the Supreme Brahman. Since the energy and the energetic are identical, actually everything is Krishna, Parabrahman. In Bhagavad Gita 9.4, Lord Krishna confirms this. Maya Statam Idam Sarvam Jagat Avyakta Murtina Matstani Sarva Bhutani Nachaham Teshva Avastita. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Krishna is spread throughout the whole universe in his impersonal form. Since everything is the manifestation of Lord's energy, the Lord can manifest himself through any energy. In this age, the Lord is manifest through wood as Lord Jagannatha, and he is manifest through water as river Ganges. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered the two brothers, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Vidya Vachaspati, to worship Lord Jagannatha and river Ganges. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So the Lord is instructing that Lord Jagannath is to be worshipped by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and Vidya Vachaspati should mention Mother Ganga. So, as Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that the Vedas mention that everything is the energy of Lord Krishna, and everything is a manifestation of the energy of the Supreme Brahman. There is nothing that exists beyond the Lord. So then it is mentioned that the energy and energetic are identical. Actually, everything is Krishna. Okay? Nothing is apart from the Lord. He pervades everything. And Krishna is spread throughout the whole universe in his impersonal form. And since everything is a manifestation of the Lord's energy, the Lord can manifest himself through any energy. And so the Lord can come in the form of wood also, he can come in the form of water also, he can manifest himself as he pleases. So Lord Chaitanya is giving this instruction to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and his brother Vidya Vachaspati. Now let's go to verse 136. Lalita Mataji, kindly read.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Krishna.
Sarvabhauma kara dharu Brahma aradhana Vachaspati kara jala Brahmera sevana. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, you should engage in the worship of Lord Jagannatha, Purushottama, and Vachaspati should worship Mother Ganges. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So the Lord is giving instructions to Vidya Vachaspati and to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Okay. Hare Krishna. So verse 137, Uma Mataji, kindly read.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Murari Guptera Prabhu Kari Alingana Chandra Bhakti Nishtha Kahena Shune Bhakta Ghana. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then embraced Murari Gupta and began to speak about his firm faith in devotional service. This was heard by all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So who is Murari Gupta actually? Whose form is he? Yes.
Hanuman.
Yes, Hanumanji. Yes. So now, after Vidya Vachaspati and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, now the Lord is turning to Murari Gupta and he gives him an embrace and he's speaking to him about firm faith and devotional service, and all the devotees are listening to this. Okay. Now let's go to verse 138. Yes, Lalita Mataji, you want to read?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Purve ami hare lobhaila bara parama madhura gupta Vrajendra Kumara. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, previously I induced Murari Gupta again and again to be imbued by Lord Krishna. I said to him, my dear Gupta, Lord Sri Krishna, Vrajendra Kumara is the supreme sweetness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So Murari Gupta is Hanumanji. So his devotion, his affection, his complete love is towards Lord Ram, that form of the Lord. And Lord Chaitanya is here mentioning that he allured and again and again, he allured him to worship Lord Krishna. So he told Murari Gupta that Vrajendra Kumar is the supreme sweetness, so you should worship Lord Krishna. So Mahaprabhu is trying to induce him to worship Lord Krishna. Okay. So now let's go to verse 139. Shameshwari Mataji, please read Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Swayam Bhagavana Krishna Sarvam si Sarvamaya Vishuddha Nirmala Prema Sarvarasamaya. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, the origin of all incarnations and the source of everything. He is pure transcendental love itself, and he is the reservoir of all pleasure. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So the Lord is saying that Lord Krishna is the Avatari. No, he is not an avatar, he is the Avatari. Everything comes from Lord Krishna. He is the source of all incarnations. And so he is saying more and more things to attract Murari Gupta towards Lord Krishna. Okay? So he is trying to induce him to chant Krishna's name. So now let's go to verse 140. Uma Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Sakala Sadguna Vrunda Ratna Kara Vidagda Chatura Dhira Rasika Shekhara. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna is the reservoir of all transcendental qualities. He is like a mine of gems. He is expert at everything, very intelligent and sober. And he is the summit of all transcendental humors.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya is mentioning qualities of Krishna. He's saying that Lord Krishna is the embodiment of all transcendental qualities. He's a mine of gem-like qualities. He's very expert at everything. He's very intelligent. He's the summit of all transcendental humors. He's very sober. So he's glorifying the Lord more and more. Now let's read verse 141. Yes, Shri Priya Mataji, kindly read.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Madhura Charitra Krishnera Madhura Vilasa Chaturya Vaidya Gadya Kare Yanra Lila Rasa. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His character is very sweet and his pastimes are melodious. He is expert in intelligence and thus he enjoys all his pastimes and mellows. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the sweet character of the Lord is mentioned, how his pastimes are very melodious, how he's very intelligent, and how he enjoys all his pastimes and mellows. That description of Lord Krishna and his sweetness is continued in this verse also. Now let's read 142. Yeah, Bhuvna Devi Mataji, want to read?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna Dandatana.
Dandatana.
Say Krishna Bhajatumi Aho Krishna Shraya Krishna Vina Anya Upakshana Manena Hilaya. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I then requested Murari Gupta, worship Krishna and take shelter of him. But for his service, nothing appeals to the mind. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So, Lord Chaitanya is requesting Murari Gupta that you take shelter of Lord Krishna, you worship Lord Krishna. But for his service, nothing appeals to the mind. So that is what is going to give solace and happiness to the mind. So you worship Lord Krishna. Okay. So now we'll see what Murari Gupta's reaction is going to be. Okay. So let's read verse 143. Gayatri Mataji, kindly read.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Ei mata bara bara suniya vachana amara gaurave kichu firi gela mana. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In this way, he heard from me again and again. By my influence, his mind was a little converted. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So now here we have to understand that the devotion of Murari Gupta is not some superficial or some light devotion. It's very, very deep rooted, right? We have heard from childhood, we have heard these glories of Hanumanji, how much he was totally surrendered to Lord Ram. He was willing to do anything just to please the Lord. And he has taken this form as Murari Gupta. He has the same devotion for Lord Ram. It is a very, very deep attachment. Even in this material world where everything is very superficial, it is all on the level of the body. But even here, we see that when the devotion in some devotees increases, when they have this love for the Lord, how purifying that is, how deep that is. And they are willing to do anything for the service of the Lord to please the Lord. And here the example that we are reading is of a Nitya Siddha, of an eternal associate of Lord Ram, that is Hanumanji. Hanumanji's love for Lord Ram, we cannot even express it in words. But Lord Chaitanya was inducing him again and again, talking so much about Lord Krishna and trying to encourage him to chant the names of Lord Krishna, mentioning so many qualities of Lord Krishna. So then the Lord mentions that in this way he heard from me again and again. So again and again the Lord was saying various things and Murari Gupta heard this. And so his mind is a little converted. It is mentioned that it is a little converted. So converted from what? Converted from worship of Lord Ram and moved towards worship of Lord Krishna, chanting the names of Lord Krishna. Okay. Bhuvna Devi Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes.
हमारे कहे ना आमी तुम्हारा किंकरा तुम्हारा आज्ञाकारी आमी नाही स्वतंत्र. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Murari Gupta then replied, I am your servant and your order carrier. I have no independent existence. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Madhya. So when he's saying that I have no independent existence, what does he mean? He means that I have surrendered unto you. If you are saying that I should worship Krishna instead of Lord Ram, then that is what I shall do. So Lord Chaitanya, he is saying all these things. He is inducing Murari Gupta, and then the reaction is that Murari Gupta's mind is a little converted, and he's saying that because he is seeing Lord Chaitanya, he is a surrender to Lord Chaitanya now, and he's saying that I have no independent existence apart from you, so I am your servant. He has that kind of a dedication, he has that kind of surrender, and I'll carry out your orders. So that means he's agreeing to chant the names of Lord Krishna. Okay. Now let's read verse 145. Would someone like to read? Yes, Lalita Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
बली घरी गेला चिंती रात्री काले रघुनाथ त्यागा चिंताया ऐलाव बिकाले. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. After this, Murari Gupta went home and spent the whole night thinking how he would have to give up the association of Raghunatha, Lord Ramchandra. Thus he was overwhelmed. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So he's feeling very overwhelmed because for him, it was inconceivable to give up the worship of Lord Ram, to give up the chanting of the name of Lord Ram. But he was completely dedicated to Lord Chaitanya also. So that is why he promised that, yes, okay, I'm going to chant the names of Lord Krishna. But this feeling of this giving up the association of Lord Ram, the association of Raghunath, is unbearable for him. It gives him a lot of pain, and that is why he's feeling very overwhelmed. He's overcome with emotions because his love for Lord Ram is so deep, and also his surrender to Lord Chaitanya is also deep. So he's kind of pulled between these two sides, and that is why he's feeling so overwhelmed. Okay, now let's read verse 146. Yes, Lalita Mataji, please read.
Keep raising my hand since there's nobody on.
Yes, thank you, Mataji.
के माने छड़ी बग रघुनाथेरा चरणा आजी रात्रे प्रभु मोरा करा मरणा. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Murari Gupta then began to pray at the lotus feet of Lord Ramchandra. He prayed that death would come that night because it was not possible for him to give up the service of the lotus feet of Raghunatha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So now Murari Gupta, he's praying to his Lord and Master. He's praying at the lotus feet of Lord Ramchandra that, I cannot give up your worship, but I have promised Lord Chaitanya to worship Lord Krishna, but I cannot give up your love. So that's why he's saying that, okay, it's better that, you take my life. It's better that death comes to me. Okay, he's praying that death would come that night because it was not possible for him to give up the service of the lotus feet of Raghunath. So this actually makes it very, very clear. It makes us very, it solidifies that understanding that for him it was unthinkable that he could give up the service of Lord Ramchandra. That is how his love is. It is so very deep, and it's in Hanumanji's Lila, in Ramji's Lila, if at any point if somebody asks Hanumanji to give up the association of Lord Ram, okay, don't fight in Lord Ram's army and you go to Golok, would Hanumanji ever agree? No. The Lord is his life. He's everything. Service of Lord Ram is everything for Hanumanji. That is his devotion for Lord Ramchandra. So he's saying that death would come, because it is not possible to give up the service of Lord Ram. Okay. Now let's read 147. Yes, Uma Mataji, kindly read.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Ei mata sarva ratri kare na kandana mane soyasti nahi ratri kaila jagarana. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Thus Murari Gupta cried the entire night. There was no rest for his mind. Therefore, he could not sleep, but stayed awake the entire night. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So this is causing so much anxiety for Murari Gupta, because at one side is his beloved Lord Ramchandra and at the other side is beloved Lord Chaitanya. So he was crying all night. He was so overcome by emotion. He was crying all night and he was not having any rest. He was not feeling peaceful at all. And so he could not sleep at all at night and he stayed awake all night. Okay. Shri Priya Mataji, you want to read 148?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare.
प्रातःकाले असीमोरा दरिला चरना खंडिते खंडिते कीचू करे निवेदना. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The morning Murari Gupta came to see me, catching hold of my feet and crying. He submitted an appeal. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. And so the whole night he is turning and tossing. He is not able to sleep. His mind is completely in an unrest state. And so in the morning he came to see Lord Chaitanya and he held the feet of the Lord and he started crying. And then he's making a request. He's submitting an appeal to Lord Chaitanya. So we can just imagine, how beautiful this interaction is, how deep is his love for Lord Ram, and then, for Lord Chaitanya, his dedication. In that, he's feeling that transcendental anxiety, and then he's crying and coming to Lord Chaitanya and submitting this appeal. Okay, so let's read 149. Yes, Lalita Mataji.
Raghunathera paya muni vechiya cho mata kadita nakpari mata mane pai vyatha. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Murari Gupta said, I have sold my head onto the lotus feet of Raghunatha. I cannot withdraw my head, for that would give me too much pain. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So he has sold his head at the lotus feet of Lord Ram. And it is too very painful for him to give up the association of Lord Ram. He has dedicated himself completely. He has sold his heart, his head, everything at the lotus feet of Lord Ram. And so he is not able to withdraw from Lord Ram's bhakti. Okay, that's what he is telling Lord Chaitanya. Okay, let's read 150. Yes, Lalita Mataji, you want to read? Hare Krishna.
Shri Raghunatha Charana Chadana Naraya Tava Ajna Bhanga Haya Kikaro Upaya. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It is not possible for me to give up the service of Raghunatha's lotus feet. At the same time, if I do not do so, I shall break your order. What can I do? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So he is in this dilemma that I cannot give up the service of Lord Ram, and yet I do not want to break your order because Lord Chaitanya had asked him to chant the names of Lord Krishna. And this is why he was crying, because he cannot forget Lord Ram, and he also does not want to give up Lord Chaitanya's order. So he is torn between these two things and he's feeling overwhelmed, and that's why he was crying. Okay. Yeah, let's read a few more verses because verse 154 is very, very sweet. So let's try reading till 154. It's just translations and then we'll stop for today. Shri Priya Mataji, kindly read. Hare Krishna.
तुम्हारे ए कृपा करा दया माया तुम्हारा अजय मृत्यु का याकू समस्या. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In this way, Murari Gupta appealed to me, saying, "You are all merciful, so kindly grant me this mercy. Let me die before you, so that all my doubts will be finished." Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So he's praying to Lord Chaitanya, not that you take away your order. He's not saying that. He's just saying that, let me die so that all the doubts are finished. You are very merciful. You please grant me this mercy, because he does not want to he cannot forget Lord Ram, and he does not want to disobey Lord Chaitanya also. So he's saying, let me die in front of you, my Lord. Okay. Now 152 AM Radhika Mataji. Yes, Mataji, Radhika Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Chuniyami bada mane sukha bhailu inhare uthan ya tabe alingana kailu. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Jai, Hare Krishna. Hearing this, I became very happy. I then realized, then raised Murari Gupta and embraced him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So what does Lord Chaitanya do? He becomes very happy hearing this, and he picks up Murari Gupta and he embraces him. So very, very sweet interaction between Lord Chaitanya and Murari Gupta. Yes, Shameshwari Mataji, verse 153, please.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Sadhu sadhu Gupta tomara surudha bhajana.
Sudreda
bhajana. Amara vanchena tomara na talila mana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I said to him, all glories to you, Murari Gupta. Your method of worship is very firmly fixed, so much so that even upon my request, your mind did not turn. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So the Lord is saying that he's glorifying actually Murari Gupta. He's saying that, oh Murari Gupta, all glories to you. You are so fixed in your worship. Even upon my request, your mind did not turn from Lord Ram to Lord Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya is glorifying Murari Gupta's worship. Okay, now last verse for today, 154. Medhavini Mataji. Want to read? Hare Krishna. Danatana.
सेवा केर प्रीति चाही प्रभु पाया प्रभु चढ़ाई लेहा पद चढ़ना नायाय. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The servitor must have love and affection for the lotus feet of the Lord, exactly like this. Even if the Lord wants separation, a devotee cannot abandon the shelter of his lotus feet. Should I read the purport, Mataji, or
yes,
just explain?
Mataji. Please read. Yes, please read.
Okay, purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The word Prabhu or Master indicates that the Lord is to be continuously served by his devotee. The original Prabhu is the Lord Sri Krishna. Nonetheless, there are many devotees attached to Lord Ramachandra, and Murari Gupta is a vivid example of such unalloyed devotion. He never agreed to give up Lord Ramachandra's worship, not even upon Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's request. Such is the chastity of devotional service, as stated in the Ante Lila of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita 4.46 to 47. Sei bhakta dhanyaye nachade prabhura charana. Sei prabhu dhanyaye nachade nija jana. Durdaive sevaka yadi yaya anya sthane. Sei thakura dhanya tare chule dhari ane. In a firm relationship with the Lord, the devotee does not give up the Lord's service under any circumstance. As far as the Lord himself is concerned, if the devotee chooses to leave, the Lord brings him back again, dragging him by the hair. Haribol. Thank you, Mataji.
Danat Pranam, Mataji. Thank you so much. So what is the Lord saying? He's saying that the servant should have such love for the lotus feet of the Lord. This is what Murari Gupta has. His love and affection is being glorified by the Lord. And even if the Lord wants a separation, the devotee cannot abandon the shelter of his lotus feet. So such is the beautiful love between the Lord and his devotees. And Prabhupada is mentioning here that Murari Gupta never agreed to give up Lord Ramachandra's worship, not even upon Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's request. Okay. And then Prabhupada is mentioning through this shloka that in a firm relationship with the Lord, the devotee does not give up the Lord's service under any circumstance. So there's nothing that can waver the devotee from that path. And as far as the Lord is concerned, if the devotee chooses to leave, the Lord brings him back again, dragging him by the hair. So the Lord does not let the devotee just waver away. Well, because that is the supreme happiness for the devotee, right? Coming back to Krishna. So the Lord, being the benefactor, the best friend, brings the devotee back. Okay, so we'll stop here. And one clarification. I think someone asked this question, that is this Mukunda Das that was mentioned in 120 and these the shlokas that we read today, is it same as Mukunda Datta? So no, they are different, because Mukunda Datta was staying with Lord Chaitanya in Navadvip, and the Mukunda Das mentioned here, Raghunandan's father, was from Srikhanda. So there are two different devotees. My apologies if I did not make it clear in the beginning. Medhavani Mataji, you want to say something?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danat Pranam.
Yeah.
Thank you for wonderful class. Mataji, I had a query, Mataji. I just wanted to ask you.
Yes, Mataji.
The last line it is mentioned, as far as the Lord himself is concerned, if the devotee chooses to leave, the Lord brings him back again, dragging him by the hair. So I just wanted to understand here, Mataji, because like it is said that the Supreme Lord does not interfere with the free will of normal people, right?
Yes.
So here, does it mean that a devotee actually gives his free will to the Lord, or how do we understand this in the right perspective, Mataji? Can you just explain from the concept of free will perspective?
Yes, Mataji. So, Mataji, my understanding here is that this is not the mention of the ordinary people. These are devotees who were engaged in the Lord's service, but for some reason have chosen to leave that seva and go. So generally we see that in the lives of such people who have rendered some devotional service, but maybe because of some misunderstanding or something, they have left the movement, or they have left the worship of the Lord. Then what happens that some kind of a change or some event in their life happens through which they are reminded of the mercy of the Lord again. And in this way, they are brought back to the seva of the Lord, because the Lord has promised, right, that even if one renders a little amount of devotional service, he never forgets that. So that devotional service does not go in vain. As you are rightly saying that the aspect of free will is there, but my understanding is that such incidents take place in the life of a devotee, or he meets with other devotees who then do bring him back, or something happens that jolts the devotee and he's again reminded of the devotional service of the Lord. And so he is brought back on the path, because that devotee had initially rendered service to Krishna. So the Lord does not forget that. That is my understanding, Mataji. We can confirm from seniors also. Very good question, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Very wonderful explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. Danat Pranam. So I'll check on this question and we'll post the answer in the group. So thank you all so much. Thank you for your patient hearing. Okay, any other points, any questions? No? Okay. Thank you all so much. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha, patitanam pavanebhyo, Shri Vaishnavebhyo namo namah, Anantakoti Vaishnavrin ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Guru Maharaj ki jai, Nitai Gaur Prem, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Danat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Dandat Pranam, Mataji.
Danat Pranam. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Mataji. With your permission, can
Yes,
I end the meeting?
kindly end the meeting. Yes, thank you.